Justine, she talked about a new Britain for a new era, no more drift and delay, the highest tax burden for 70 years. We must break down the barriers to growth. That would be all well and good had she not served in this government for most of the last 12 years. Formerly Chief Secretary to the Treasury, formerly Secretary of State for International Trade. I mean, this is the economic orthodoxy she signed off.
Well, I remember the discussions I had with Liz Truss when she was Chief Secretary of the Treasury, looking after the nation's money, whilst I was Education Secretary. And I often felt the purse strings were very tightly shut. And of course, it is probably worth reflecting that although growth was low, actually by 2015, Britain had the fastest growing economy in the G7. So I think all these things are relative. She's quite right to focus on growth. The key is getting the right hypothesis about what is going to unlock growth. And I think, I was at party conference as well in these last few days, I think the key factor that was discussed around lots of fringes was levelling up and skills, Christian. And so once Liz Truss is back into Parliament with her parliamentary team, that for me is going to be the real issue that they will need to get on and discuss. I think the final point, in a sense, to make from my experience of conference was there's also a risk that this debate that was had on this 45 pence rate of tax for the wealthiest higher earners in the UK and scrapping that, very controversial. Actually, behind that was a broader debate that Michael Gove was flagging up, a senior Conservative, about values. And so Rob's right. I think the party faithful that were at conference are still there, very much like Liz Truss's speech. But actually, there were lots of activists who probably had headed home, partly because of the train strikes, for whom I think there was a real nervousness about whether this government has the agenda to keep those red wall seats that Boris Johnson won in 2019 still on board for voting Conservative when the next election comes.